Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button, and please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Alright people, so right after I finished watching episode 3, I came across this article from the AV Club that delivers the headline Moon Knight delivers to die for action in round 3. This article begins by the person comparing Oscar Isaac's jumping to Tom Cruise's iconic running. First off, if you start off your article or your review by talking about another man's jumping skills, then you might want to rethink things.
That makes sense.
It doesn't say much that you're clearly more interested in Oscar Isaac's jumping than you were with anything else that happened in this episode. And to be clear, just in general, Oscar Isaac isn't even in the same stratosphere as Tom Cruise, either as an action star or just a movie star in general. Tom Cruise is an old school movie star, and Oscar Isaac runs around or jumps around in a dress.
What the hell am I looking at?
The media is so desperate to find things to praise about this show, they are quite literally grasping at straws right in front of our faces. We aren't talking about the acting or the story or the CGI. No, we're going to start off our article by talking about jumping. What the fuck is the world coming to, and why is it so hard for critics to be critics? You aren't supposed to approach these type of articles as a fan like this person is doing. I'm going to be honest with you, episode 3 bored the fuck out of me. And I do not recall one action sequence in this entire episode that was either unique or memorable in any way.
I don't care!
The first fight sequence between Moon Knight and the black market dealer's henchman was fine, I guess, but it's no better than any other fight scene that we've seen that's just like it. This is my whole point with this show. People keep saying, well, it's different compared to other Marvel properties. But I'm not comparing Moon Knight to other Marvel properties, because we already know what we're getting from Marvel properties. I'm comparing it to upper echelon superhero or comic book stories told in live action, because that's what you should strive to achieve every time out. Otherwise, what is the point of even making the show to begin with?
Goddamn right, that's the only way I work, Cap.
It quite simply exists just to exist, just so they can have another property under their belt. And there's absolutely no reason to put effort into anything that they do, because they know people are going to write reviews about this show, but instead of talking about the actual problems with it, they're going to talk about jumping. Everyone needs to open their eyes just a little bit, because the fix is very clearly in.
So I strongly suggest that you wake the fuck up.
Even if you're one of the people who like this show, and that's fine, I'm glad you enjoy it. But when a show like this has an overwhelmingly positive response from critics, all the red flags start going up for me. The MCU effect is in full effect, and I don't really see how anyone can deny that. This show to me is mediocre at best, if I'm being generous.
Whoopie fucking do. Hey, I'm impressed.
The highlight of episode 3 for me was watching Oscar Isaac switch from Mark to Steven right in the middle of a scene, because it's a somewhat impressive transition acting-wise, and it's also a decent moment overall. But again, we've seen this all before and done much better by James McAvoy in Split. So even the coolest aspect of this show, or at least this episode, isn't really anything groundbreaking. And McAvoy not only did it better, but much more frequently as well. It always feels like newer comic book movies or stories are trying to play catch up with something that already existed.
Now go get drunk and take credit at all the parties.
I would never do that to you.
And a good chunk of this episode is Oscar Isaac wrestling with the different personalities within him. And we can see where it's going because it's done in a very predictable way, and Mark and Steven are going to have to learn how to coexist. They show very clearly in this episode that Mark, or Moon Knight, is very good at the hand-to-hand combat aspect of the character. And the Steven and Mr. Knight portion of the personality is much more intellectual and intelligent.
I can handle things, I'm smart!
So they're going to play up this inner conflict between them with the ultimate goal of them working together. And I gotta be honest, all the jumping around and switching back and forth between personalities and all the blackouts isn't exactly narratively pleasing. In fact, it's quite confusing at times and not in a good way, and that falls on people who are creating this show. They need to relay these ideas that they have in a much more efficient way. They also hint at a possible third personality, which is only going to make things even more convoluted.
Why?
By the way, the same article that I mentioned at the top of this video also mentioned that he couldn't dwell on the questions too long because they had to get into some Indiana Jones type stuff. This show is about as far away from anything Indiana Jones related that I can think of. Indiana Jones was fun, it was exciting, it was relatable, it had an adventurous tone to it. I don't feel any of these things watching Moon Knight. I feel boredom. I feel sadness. I feel uninterested. I feel disconnected from this show in every way possible.
Son of a bitch.
Even the Indiana Jones-like moments that they do have, like going to see a black market dealer because he has an artifact that you need, and then you have to decipher something using that artifact. All that really did was make me want to watch Indiana Jones because it was done much better. And yes, they even go into a famous archaeological landmark in the Pyramid of Giza, but they really didn't have to work to get there. There's some mumbo-jumbo about constellations and shit, but honestly, that's all been done before as well.
I don't give a fuck.
It's not as intelligent as people would like to think that it is. This show struggles when it's trying to explain exactly what the fuck is going on, and that's bad writing. There's also this whole sequence where they meet other gods and their avatars, and Ethan Hawke's character convinces the other gods that Khonshu is abusing his powers and holding Mark and Steven hostage, which ultimately leads to Khonshu's banishment, I guess?
Anybody care about what I want?
I do.
Shut up. Get out.
So at least for a little while, Mark and Steven aren't going to have discount Sean Connery in their head constantly. But they also presumably won't be able to summon the powers of Moon Knight at will like they were doing either. So where do we go from here? Who knows? Do I care? Absolutely not. Best case scenario, we don't have to see that awful CGI suit for a little while. Imagine that. I'm intrigued by the idea of not seeing Moon Knight in the Moon Knight show. I'd say you're doing something wrong.
Because it's all part of the plan.
Couple of quick notes here before I get out of here. Bumbling useless in a fight, Steven had another cringe moment this week where he asked for a timeout in the middle of a fight. But I'm sure everyone's going to love him for it. In another moment, Oscar Isaac did this weird thing where Khonshu is speaking through him, and it just resulted in Oscar Isaac doing a bunch of random yelling faces. It's just so hokey, and a lot of things about this show come off feeling a lot like backyard reenactments.
Yes, I'm having difficulty controlling the volume of my voice!
And then we have Layla, who had her Admiral Holdo moment for this episode, where Oscar Isaac was instantly transported back to being Poe Dameron, at least for a minute. It comes in a scene where Mark is asking what the plan is, and she responds, "It's not fun to be left in the dark, now is it?" That has to be a reference to The Last Jedi, right? It's too on the nose to not be. Yes, Queen! And anything that reminds me of The Last Jedi clearly has its issues, and I believe that this show has a lot of them. So have you seen episode 3 of Moon Knight? If you have, let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. As always, please like, comment, share, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications, and I'll see you next time right here on Real Shift. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
Y'all be cool. Shut up.